Hey, today we're talking about exponential decay. This is from your homework 7.2, the practice worksheet. If we take a look, we have, for numbers 1, 2, and 3, it asks us to tell whether the function represents exponential growth or decay. To do that, I have to think about my function being written in the form of f of x equals b to the x power. So the number being taken to the x power is the number that we're looking at specifically to tell whether we have growth or decay. And if I write some notes down here, if my b is greater than 1, then I know I'm going to have growth. And that's because I'm multiplying something by something greater than 1. It's going to keep getting bigger. Okay? If my b is between 0 and 1, I'm going to have decay. Because if I multiply something that's between 0 and 1, that number is going to keep getting smaller. So let's take a look at what our b's are here. Here in this function, the number that's being taken to the power is 4/5. So my b is 4/5. Well, 4/5 is less than 1. So if I think about it being less than 1, then it must be decay. For number 2, if I could identify my b is 5/4 here. Well, 5/4 is greater than 1, and therefore I'm going to have growth. So again, to identify whether we have exponential decay or growth, we're looking at the number that's being taken to the power, not the number that's being multiplied in front of that. For number 10, it asks us to graph the function. State the domain and range. So I'm going to make myself an XY chart. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So I'm going to plug in these values and go ahead and graph. I know because I have a negative in the front, this is going to end up being flipped over the x-axis, so it's going to look like it's going downward. So let's start by plugging -2 in. F of -2 would give me -2/3 to the -2 power. So to follow order of operations, I have to apply the -2 power first. Well, I know that a negative power makes me drop things below. So if I think about this being 2 to the -2 power over 3 to the -2 power, and all of that being negative, I want to get rid of these -2 powers. So I'm going to flip their positions. So I have 3 squared then over 2 squared, and all of that is still negative. And that gives me a -9/4. So -9/4 is my first y coordinate. If I plug in -1, I go through the same process. I apply the -1 power to each thing. 2 to the -1 over 3 to the -1. And I can simply flip or do the reciprocals instead of negative exponents on both. So I'm going to get -3/2. When I plug in 0, I'm going to get -2/3 to the 0 power. Well, I know that anything to the 0 power is 1, so I have -1. Plugging in +1, I get -2/3 to the first power, which is simply -2/3. And finally, I'm going to have, -2/3. F squared, or f of 2, which is -2/3 to squared, if I apply the power to both the top and bottom, I'm going to get 2 squared over 3 squared, which is negative 4/9. If I'm going to graph this now, I'm going to go ahead and do all my x, y pairs. Negative 2, 1, 2, negative 9/4. Well, I'm going to rewrite this. Negative 9/4, if I write that as a mixed number, that's negative 2 and 1/4. That kind of gives me an idea of where my graphing is. Okay, so negative 2 and negative 2 and 1/4 is about right here. Again, I'm going to rewrite this as a mixed number. This is negative 1.5. So then I know that I have negative 1 and negative 1.5. There's my next dot. 0, 1. Negative 1 would be right there. And 1, negative 2/3. Negative 2/3 is going to be closer to negative 1. And 2 and negative 4/9. Well, 4/9, that's less than half. So it's going to be about right here. I know you notice we didn't have anything adding or subtracting outside here at the end of my function. So my asymptote, my horizontal asymptote remains y equals 0. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my curve upwards towards the line y equals 0. If you have any additional questions about the homework, please see me or Mr. Daniels and enjoy your work.